Okay, hello and good morning. It is Saturday the 20th of August and it's 8 o'clock-ish, just gone. So I've got my coffee, got some fruit juice as well just because it's that kind of morning. And I thought I'd do a little live today, mostly because technology let me down with what I've recorded. So for those of you that aren't familiar, this is Ewe Sew You, I'm Zoe. This is my channel all about the crafty bits and pieces I get up to. I knit, I sew, spin, I drop spindle, I dabble and weaving from time to time, and anything else that takes my crafty fancy. But today we're looking at paper cutting, which is a relatively new to me craft. I'd go at the Rebecca Page free paper crafting summit about a month or so ago. It's kind of old craft, it's not like I wasn't aware of it, I just hadn't to go. So yeah, it's one of those things I'd always meant to try. So I'm going to switch cameras around. You can see my overhead tripod in the corner of the shop there, and let you see what I get up to. And I'm going to try not to chop my fingers off because that would be bad. Okay, so let's switch around. Pop that one over. Okay, so there's my overhead. I go to one. Not that one. Okay, I'm just going to leave it like that because I'm not sure if I go to the solar view if you'll still be able to hear me. So we'll leave it in 2 views because then I know you'll be able to hear me because the mic's on this camera. So as I was saying, this is the paper cutting template that we tried with the Rebecca Page paper cutting class as part of their summit. She does lots of summits throughout the course of the year, lots of different crafts. But the most recent one was Papercraft. So for this, we got sent a template that you folded the paper in half and then drew the template on half of it and cut through both layers. So I mean, that was fine. It gives you a nice symmetrical project, so you can see that things are nice and even. And this is just done on printer paper, so it's quite thin. There were a couple of little design elements that, because the lines were quite thin, I didn't quite manage to get in place, so I had to take them off. That's partly because the paper was thin and partly because some of the bits were fiddly. We're talking leaves and branches, we're not talking about major parts of the design. So for paper cutting, all you need is something to cut on. So I've got a self-healing cutting mat, which is the recommended surface, but I'm sure if you haven't got one, a chopping board would work. You need some paper and you need a craft knife. I know in the States these are sometimes referred to as X-Acto knives, but I'm not entirely sure whether that's the type of knife or whether it's a brand. I know if you search X-Acto knife in the UK, you struggle to find them. So this one I got from an online retailer, you know the one, and it's got a little bit to protect your fingers because they're super sharp. It's also come with a spare blade, so I can swap that one over when it runs out. But I will obviously need new blades at some point. So I'm going to move this one out of the way, because I have picked up some other bits and pieces to help me develop my skills in paper cutting. One of the things I picked up is this card kit. I'm not going to do this one today, I'm going to save this for another day. So we've got a selection of designs in here that you cut out and then you put gradient paper that's also included in the pack behind it, so you get this watercolour effect on the design, so that's quite pretty. So I'm going to save that for another day. And from the same company, from Katie Sue Love a Creative Life, the same publisher, I picked up this book called Adventures in Paper Cutting. It's series 5, so there are quite a few of these books available, but I like the designs in this one. The good thing about these books is they come with a practice page, which I've already worked my way through. So we've got all these leaves and a rose and sort of planty bits and pieces that I've cut out from the practice page on here. Now the good thing with this book is not only are the designs printed on the page, but it's 170 GSM paper, so it's much thicker than the printer paper, which is quite helpful for not accidentally tearing it. And you get several copies of the main designs. So we've got bugs, and we've got animals and all sorts. And you get a few copies of each one, so you can have a practice. Now what I didn't do before I went live was actually take a page out of here to have a go. So these books actually step you through the skill levels as you progress through. So you start off fairly simple and they get harder as you go through the book. So this is the first section. So let's just start with the first design with this beetle. Okay, so I'm just going to take this page out of the book. Excuse the noise. Ooh, I should have done that before I went live, really, but never mind. Obviously, you're not going to leave the page in the book to cut it out because you'll damage the pages beneath it. And that's obviously not really what you want to be doing. Okay, so the biggest tip that I picked up from the papercrafting summit, the first tip, was that you start from the middle and work your way out. Just hoping that you can see that side of the design fine. I've got sunlight coming through from behind me. So in this book, the design is in grey and you're cutting away the white areas. So we're going to start in the middle and we're going to use the non-cutting hand to steady the paper. So we're going to be quite careful because these knives are very, very sharp. So we're going to be carefully cutting around from the middle of the shape and working our way out. So the last bit that we will cut will be the outside of the shape to take it off the page itself. So let's have a little start with these bits that are in the middle. So we're always cutting towards ourselves and we're making sure that the knife is away from our fingers. So we're going to be having to turn the page as we're cutting. We're trying to follow the line around. See if we go too much into the white, then that's not a problem. We don't want to go into the grey. We can always cut extra away, but we can't really add it back in. So we'll take this bit out. So we're removing the bits of paper as we go and we're using the blade to help us with that. So as you can see, I didn't quite catch this bit at the bottom, so I'm just going to take that bit away. And we're going to move on to this little triangle bit here. And then I'll do the flowers and the bits on the head. So obviously with the 170 GSM paper, I am having to press a bit harder than I did with the printer paper. That's essentially because this 170 GSM paper is a bit like a light cardstock. So it's significantly thicker, so you're going to need to press harder to get through all the layers. Now, the reason that you start from the middle and work your way out is because as you're removing bits of the paper or the card, you're reducing the integrity of the paper. So by starting from the middle and working your way out, you give yourself the best chance of not ripping and moving the design as you're cutting. Okay, so let's do these head bits. Again, we'll start with the middle one. If you're watching the replay back, which you will be, because at the moment there's no one joining me live, but that's not a surprise given the time that it is. I will be popping up from time to time with banners across the bottom of the screen, much like this one. So feel free to respond to those questions, comments in the box down below. One thing I didn't do when I started the stream is the bit of software that I'm using so that I can have the two cameras on the go at the same time, which means I didn't have to set up my overhead camera whilst you were watching. That software has some background music in it. I didn't check that part out. So, it means you can end up with some awkward quietness whilst I try not to chop my fingers off. Okay, so that's half the head done. I would recommend, if you're starting out in paper cutting, I mean, why wouldn't you? It's quite a relaxing as a meditative craft, and low cost and very accessible, because as I say, all you need is a craft knife, a mat and a bit of paper. I would recommend that your cutting surface, so preferably a self-healing cutting mat, because they are designed for this sort of thing. Don't get one that's too close in colour, excuse me, to the paper that you're using. Because as you're removing bits of the design, you can really sort of start to see how the shape is forming. So whilst I'm cutting away, you'll notice that I don't have a fan in the background. That's good, because it's not as hot this morning as it has been past few weeks. We've had a bit of a cooler week this week and a bit of rain, so that's been good. The garden's enjoying that. The garden's still a mess, but it's enjoying the rain. So I've got some things that come into flower I thought maybe past because of all the prolonged period of no rain. For those of you that are maybe not in the UK and maybe not aware, much of England is in a drought at the moment. So it's been that long since we've had rain. And there are areas in the south where there are hosepipe bans. So I don't use a hosepipe in my garden anyway. I'm just going to cut this bit off the top because that's annoying me. It keeps catching on the edge of my mat. I use a watering can in my garden because we don't have an external tap, and the kitchen's at the front of the house. So trying to water that garden with the hosepipe would mean running it through the house, and I'm not doing that. So yes, I use a watering can for my plants. I focus on the ones that are in pots rather than the whole garden. But parts of the south of England, there are hosepipe bans, so people can't wash their cars, can't use the hose in the garden, that kind of thing, because our reservoirs are just not filled up. We're not quite there where I am at the moment, which is good because we're a very rural area. There's a lot of farms in the county that I live. So we're enjoying some nicer temperatures. We've had a little bit of rain, not enough to refill the reservoirs, but enough for the gardens to sigh relief. Just keep checking my screen because I've got my laptop in front of me. So where you can see my face, that's my new webcam. That I've attached to my laptop because the one that was on my laptop was really not very good. It didn't give very good images. So I put a new one, just a USB one. It's got a nice ring light on it, so I can actually put that on where it needs at the moment, even though I'm a little bit silhouetted by the sun behind. What was I saying? Yes, I've got a new webcam, and means I can do stuff straight onto the computer a bit more, which is nice, which is good for these live streamy type things if I ever do any more. And crafting wise, I've not done very much fibery stuff. I really need to get on my knitting. Anybody else is getting on with it at the moment, doing anything other crochet out. I've got a sweater that I really need to get on with because I need to do a video to go with it, but yeah, haven't done that. So it's not a lot of crafting going on. As you can see, I've been playing with technology a little bit. So I've got my new webcam. You're on the phone overhead, and so I'm just going to have to keep an eye on that, make sure the battery doesn't run out because that's been playing up lately. I love technology. But I've been doing more papercrafty stuff this month, mostly because of doing the summit, and mostly because of the heat. I haven't really felt like doing much with wool, and obviously Tour de Fleece as well. Takes up about a month. So yeah, so not too much knitting to show you. I will be getting some knitting done and some other bits and pieces, done some sewing done and things before the end of the month, ready for the roundup. And I've got that needle felting project to finish as well. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about for my needle felting project, pop back into my previous videos, in last week's what the fluff am I making video. I've started a needle felting project. It's some sort of creature, but I've not told you what sort of creature it is. So I'll ask people to have a guess, and hopefully I'll have enough of it done by the time I come to do my roundup video at the end of the month for either further guesses or to reveal what it is. Now the kit estimated 8 hours to make it. Obviously I'm not timing myself, but I suspect it's going to take me more than 8 hours of total crafting time. Partly because I didn't go for the introductory kit, I went for the next one up. It's not like I haven't tried needle felting before, but this one is certainly bigger, or much bigger than the projects I've tried before, and certainly a bit more realistic than some of the ones I've tried before. So, now I'm hoping to be able to get most of this done before I have to go off the broadcast, but very much depends on what time my other half wakes up, because I'm in the living room, and that's mostly so that I disturb him less than if I was in the craft room, which is one of the bedrooms. So I'm hoping he sleeps in. So it's about 20 past 8, so you know, I'm getting up around about 10 lately because he's been staying up on the Xbox. So obviously if I hear him get up, I will sign off, because it's not really fair of me to take up the living room when he wants the breakfast. The cat's been very well behaved. He's lounging on the footstool in the corner. So yeah, we should be good to get this done. Because it's the more basic of the designs in the book that I got. You never know. So yeah, so I'll have a little explore of the background music that's available in the studio for this streaming platform thing. It's a nice little platform. It's all, you can do things with guests, which is how I've got the two cameras going. So I've got my phone set up as a guest, and you can, if you use a paid subscription, you can record it on the platform and broadcast it later. So it's got background music in there. And if anyone was watching live, I will be able to bring their questions up on the screen, and I will include you guys in what I'm doing and the conversation as we're going. So it's something that I'm considering doing in the future. If I was on Twitch, I could stream to Twitch at the same time as stream to YouTube. So I've been actually thinking about doing live stream for quite a long time. I haven't really sort of found the slot to do it in, as it were. Partly because, well, one, I can do this sort of thing, where I've got the two cameras going, as well as obviously being able to engage directly with you guys if you're watching at the time. And also, on busy week, like at the moment I'm working more than I normally do, even though it's the school holidays and I work in education, we're doing summer school. And so I'm in more days than I normally am. And I've got a few other bits and pieces that I'm doing at the minute. So I've got a little less time. And obviously filming and editing does take a bit of time, which is fine. I enjoy doing it. But there are times where it's a little tricky to fit it in. So live would be a good option for those sorts of weeks. Obviously, I'm not too worried about viewing numbers during the live because it will remain available on the YouTube channel after I finish. So it's not like people aren't going to be able to see it at a time that suits them. Because I'm quite aware that a lot of my viewers are not in the UK. So for a lot of my viewers, it's like the middle of the night at the moment. Yeah. It's something I've been considering. If I do decide to do more lives, I will obviously have to think about time zones and that kind of thing. So, my sort of Eastern Standard Time, I know that that's their afternoons and my evenings. So my afternoons will be their morning. I know that in Australia and that kind of thing, my evening is there tomorrow. Because time zones are weird and confusing. But we have the technology to help us with that. My phone tells me the time of various different places. So international virtual knit nights that I take part in, they're hosted by people in Greece. So I have the Athens time on my phone. And my sister and her family live in Bulgaria. So I have Sofia time on my phone. And because a lot of the free workshops and classes and that kind of thing are from people based in the States and Canada, mostly the States, for the ones that I take part in. I have Los Angeles time and New York time on my phone as well, all at the same time, so I can just pull up the world clock and see all of those times. It doesn't mean I don't miss out on seeing things live as they're broadcast, but I try. Well, so far, I've managed to not cut my fingers at all. Famous last words, as they say. You can see I am turning the paper quite a lot. to get the angle that I need, to make sure all the time keeping my blade moving away from me. And sometimes I'm just going sideways, so I go towards me, I'm going sideways. I'm not going in that direction because that would be dangerous. If you don't have as much control over your knife. The woman that ran the course, her craft knife was on her finger. So I have seen them where they've got like a little ring thing that sits around there, and the point comes out of your finger, so you can do that. Which sounds like a good idea, and I was tempted, but I figured this one is a bit more like a pen, and I am used to pens and pencils and paintbrushes and that kind of thing. So this I felt fitted in more with the sort of things that I'm used to doing. And you are essentially using your knife like a pen, just drawing around where you want to cut things out. Obviously I've not got as far as doing my own designs. You certainly would be able to do the symmetrical thing, like the picture frame that I did as part of the workshop. So this one, which has a space here, the designer had put her name on it, but the guy knows we've got tricky to fit with my writing. I've seen somebody do a heart up there as well. I'm just waiting until I know what picture is going to go in the middle before I decide what I'm putting at the top there. So with that one, you folded the paper in half to get a symmetrical design. So you could do that with this, particularly if there's not going to be very much around that centre point because the crease will show. Alternatively, you could flip the template over and retrace it the other way around. With that class, she was quite clear that we were doing the project on the back of the work, so that any dodgy cuts or pencil marks, that kind of thing, were on the back of the finished product. So when this is done, I will flip it over and use the other side that hasn't had the grey print on it as the right side. Won't be able to do that on the card pack because they've printed the designs on the front of the card, and on those ones I'll be cutting away the grey and leaving the white. So just have to be careful to be on the line with those, or just outside the line, so that I take the grey off as I'm cutting. Obviously, if this was pre-recorded, I'd be speeding some of these bits up. Because we're already getting to the sort of length that I sometimes put videos up at. Obviously, there's not too much left to do. Part of me almost wants to do a few more videos of paper cutting. Obviously not week on week because that'd be boring. But a few more videos where I try not to talk. As you can imagine from this stream, that's not easy for me. What I could do, because you've got the sound of the knife and the paper and everything, so I could try and do it with no talking whatsoever. I could just take the sound off and put music over the top, which might be more practical for me. Right, we're on to our last flower.
Yeah, I did pre-record some paper cutting yesterday for you guys. I was going to like speed bits up and that sort of stuff. But because I did it on my webcam, it took me ages to find where the computer saved the file. Sorry. And then the computer decided that it wouldn't let me put the footage into my editing software, that the file it had created was corrupted or unreadable or in the wrong format or something, so I couldn't get it edited. And it was like an hour of footage, which I know was going to be fairly long on this one. So, but it was getting quite late to get it edited anyway. So I'd edited and sped up and music added in and that kind of stuff. And then you have to produce the video. So your computer takes ages to go, right, we've put it all together now. Yeah, I've got everything. And yeah, it's formatted, ready to go up onto the internet as one file rather than lots of clips. And then you have to upload it to YouTube. So it just wasn't really liking me, which is annoying because there's quite a lot of footage. So even if I had managed to get the file to work in my editing software, it would have taken a while to put up. So instead of seeing me cutting out the practice ones, which I've already shown you, you get to see me do all the real ones. So we're a little over half an hour in length now. And we've got all of the body, the interior bits cut out. So now, once I've had some more coffee, which is still warm, which is good, I just need to cut around the outside of the shape so that the beetle comes after the page. So we've got these little bits between the legs and the body, so I'm going to do those bits first, and this bit up the abdomen, is that right? Trying to remember my GCSE biology. So I'll do those bits first, and then I'll do the main outside shape. Because again, I'm working on the work from the middle out principle. It's better with that much, you can see them doing a bit more. Okay, so let's get this bottom bit cut, and I'll flip the paper around to do the top. Okay, so I'm going to leave that attached for the moment and do these bits up higher up. And this will come off when I do the outside of this thread. Let's take that bit out. I'll try and get my head out of the way of the overhead shot. Okay, that bit should be able to come out as well. Okay, so this is the not so exciting chatty bit as I concentrate on getting this last bit done. So it is just the outside that needs doing. So we aren't nearly there. I do feel like I should probably be talking constantly, but there's only so much I can say about, hey look, I'm cutting paper. Okay, so just round the outside. Let's do this bit first. So again, I'm using my non-cutting hand to steady, and I'm specifically using my pointer finger around these fiddly bits, just to make sure that nothing moves as I cut around the outside.
of the antennae. Do the same when I get to the legs. Obviously there's no paper on this side to hold things in place. Once again, that index finger just holding the leg, so don't get too much movement. Okay, so that's what that side does. We've just got this side to do. And we've already cut this bit, so we've just got to do the outside. Fill my knife a little bit, because you screw the blade in by twisting the barrel of the knife. Sometimes it wants to untwist as you're using it. So keep an eye on that, so that you don't have your blade falling out in the middle of the project. So you lose a bit of control as well when it's not firmly in. Okay, so let's lift this little guy. Use my blade to pop it in out. There may be little bits that I don't quite catch. Now, for some of the fiddly bits that you've cut, don't always want to let go. Paper likes to hold on to itself a bit. And there we go. There we have our beat off. Now if I flip them over, you can see the right side. So that's taking me about 45 minutes, less all the waffle, to get done. I'm just going to put the lid back on the blade, because safety first. So if I just switch back to Solo View. So yeah, there's my little beetle. I'm using the mouse on the computer to show it to you. If that's no good, you can't see the mouse. So yeah, there's my little guy, all cut out. Okay, so yeah, he's all done. Not sure what I'll do with him. Pop him on a card or in a frame, or just use a bookmark. I don't know. I'm just learning at the moment and practicing. But it's a fairly straightforward craft to get your head around. One day I'll start doing my own designs, but for now I'm working with the ones from other people. So now that I am properly getting silhouetted by the garden, And I will love you and leave you. Thanks so much for watching if you've got this far. Obviously, I aim to do a video every weekend. It's usually pre-recorded rather than live. It doesn't mean I'm averse to doing lives in the future. But yeah, normally they're pre-recorded videos. Once a month, it's a roundup of what I've been working on in the preceding month. And the rest of the time, it's videos a little bit more like this, albeit not live, where I'm showing you a particular craft or skill or technique and how I go about doing it. Now, I'd love to see you in the next one. So until then, happy crafting and goodbye for now.